Uh-huh.
I was at the conference, the last one in Chicago.
Oh, I actually met you.
Yeah.
You were sitting at a table, I think, for Loving Day.
Yes, I was. At Loving Day, or what? No, I was at the table for
Jeff Chiba Stearns, I think. I know because I took a photograph of you, and we were using it on our website for like registration, and that's when I realized, like, oh, I know that person.
Yes. That's what happened, and apparently that I haven't seen the film, but I think that might be in the film or something like that too, the one that made. Yeah, I really liked that conference. It was so wonderful. It had just a full. You just feel so connected and accepted. I think that to me was what I was left with more. I mean, the talks were great, the discussion, performances, what I was left with most and still is the feeling and connection. And I'm going to be there this year.
Well, we'll miss you. We're going to have the conference again next year in 2018 at University of Maryland.
Okay, so it's becoming an annual thing?
March. Yeah, it'll be March 1st through 3rd of 2018 at University of Maryland. So hopefully,
wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah, no,
that's
I think
a lot closer to Canada.
Definitely, we started the Critical Mixed Race Studies Conference in 2010, and the the people I've met through that have really been amazing friends and fellow activists. And I think right now, in the times we're in, it's made such a difference to be surrounded by people that can support each other in our work, on a daily basis. So it's not just scholarly; it's been an incredible community.
Yeah,
I'm glad you.
That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
So, what was the motivation behind starting it? Where did that come
from? We're sitting here now, right, in the Trump administration, but if I can flash back to 2008, we were at a retreat in San Francisco, some mixed race leaders, and we were trying to figure out what's next because, there'd been a lot of energy around the 2000 census, but then it wasn't clear kind of what was going on with all of our different groups, what was the next thing. And everybody was really excited about, Obama. And we were trying to figure out what's next. And myself and my former colleague Camilla Fojas from DePaul and Wei-Ming Dariotis from San Francisco State University, we said we should make a critical mixed race studies association. That's one thing that we wanted to do. Many of us have really, been involved in mixed race movements or addressed those things in our works, but a lot of times it had been about, I guess we would say now, sort of a neoliberal identity politics about self. And we wanted to have a space to talk about these things in a scholarly context. We were doing research on this. And it's, for scholars, it's been something that tends to be marginalized within other fields, with ethnic studies, sociology, and the like. And all of us are coming from arts and humanities. I'm a studio artist. Wei-Ming's also an artist and a poet, and works on Asian American literature, mixed race literature. Camilla Fojas does film studies. So we also wanted to bring that arts component to it, to the discussion of mixed race. So we thought, well, we'll just, before we start an association, let's see if we can get people together for a conference. And we really envisioned this would be, just, small academic thing, 50 people, 100 people or something like that. But the applications kept coming and coming. So that first one was over 450 people. And they came from all across the United States and as well as a little bit internationally in that first one. And we knew that it was something far larger than what we had anticipated, and we needed to keep it going. It was just that first conference, there's so many artists and activists, community people there, and scholars, junior scholars, students, senior scholars, all in the same space. And I think for a lot of us, it felt like a homecoming in a way, but also like there's a lot of work to be done still. So that was the beginning point of it, and it's just kind of kept growing. So.
Yeah, the one I went to was the third one.
Yeah, it was the third iteration, and since that time, we can see here every time the capacity is getting like a bigger and bigger. So that we did, in fact, become an association, and we have a interim board, and we'll hold elections shortly. So we're trying to build structures so this is sustainable, so that us individual people helping out don't burn out.
So
there's a lot of volunteer.
people, yeah, I imagine it's really, but also it's fulfilling as well.
It
It's
is.
probably
Yeah. I think
fulfilling than a lot of the work we normally do, most of us.
yeah, it is, but I think we need to figure out where does the mixed race movement stand in terms of social justice issues. It's been wonderful to come together and realize we're not alone in this research. It's wonderful to study mixed race. But what does this mean in the context of the US in a moment where we're talking about Black Lives Matters, or we're dealing with the Trump administration? You know, where is our movement in that? So I think we have a lot of unanswered questions to really, really deal with systemic racism. So that's, you know, my hope.
For the who aren't too familiar, because a lot of the viewers that, I mean, I haven't posted something in a while, but people are maybe young people who are alone where they grew up, one of the only mix that they know, besides maybe a sibling, and they're accept and expand their identity as a person, and they might not ever have about this sort of conference. What is the conference exactly?
Well, the conference is a scholarly conference, but we also partner with Mixed Root Stories to put on arts and cultural programming. So if a young person wants to come, you know, they may or may not like, you know, sitting through panel discussions on scholarly topics, but we have film screenings, we have live performances, we have a concert this year that's going to be put on by Hapa Japan Festival. So there's entry points that I think the general public or young people would really, really enjoy. So for example, in our live performance, this year's theme, we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the US Supreme Court case Loving versus Virginia from 1967, which legalized interracial marriage, although there are a few states that didn't comply till much later. But in that moment where we're celebrating that, we're also thinking about issues of transgression. So we don't want the mixed race movement just to be heteronormative. You know, as wonderful as Loving versus Virginia is, but what areas can we think about? How does mixed race transgress? We're looking, you know, when we started this conference, this particular conference a year ago, when we were coming up with the idea, that was when the Rachel Dolezal case was going on, and we kept hearing people talk about transracial. So, you know, where are the boundaries of things? That's the theme for this year's conference. So in our live performers, one of our featured performers is Zave Mortahajarno, who's a transgender person who's going to be doing modern dance, interpreted Balinese traditional dance that's interpreted into modern form. We also have Carly Bates, who will be doing actually a spoken word piece about Rachel Dolezal. So there's opportunities where people can, you know, hear actors, you know, do spoken word or do performances or dance and access it that way. So we're excited about that. And one panel that you're going to talk to our keynote, Rudy Guevara, who's a professor at University of Arizona. So he's going to highlight border issues, which I think are really, really pertinent right now. We also have Maria Pipirut, who will be doing a session where she'll be reflecting back on over 25 years of the movement.
I think we'd probably be surprised at how many young people are actually very critical, very engaged, and very questioning of what we the norms, where our society is going. I think there's definitely a lot of people who would be interested in actually the academic, the more intellectual.
We also are partnering with Asian American Literary Review, so there'll be literary readings. We have a filmmaker coming who's going to bring a film called, I have to look at my notes here, but Word of Honor, Reclaiming Mandela's Promise by Kirsten Dunbar Chase. And there's a photographer coming from South Africa, Rushe Bushnin, who's going to do a photo exhibit. So the conference, this particular conference is hosted by University of Southern California, and the Kiso Ito Center. And so one of the things we want to highlight too is the trans-Pacific and also mixed race Japanese in the conference. So that's something that'll run through everything.
There'll definitely be no snow at this conference, not like the last one. I remember it was snowing. That was it was kind of nice.
It'll be much better weather.
Yeah. Well, it depends what you like. Some people really like the cold, but that sounds really cool. So you said I think what is really cool too about this conference, it's interdisciplinary. It's writers, there are filmmakers, there are comedians or performers. Didn't think that this was a space for them, out to, and included, and that gave it sort of the warmth. I feel that that's to the warmth, and also the sort of the younger panel of younger people. You do have some panels open to like students. I remember as well.
To what?
I remember last time there was a panel. I think I didn't make it to that, but there was like a university speakers who are involved in sort of mixed student unions and mixed student organizations.
So over time, caucuses have bubbled up. So people who have particular interests. So we do have a student caucus, and that's a wonderful opportunity for people to meet other people who are students. And many times those groups will propose panels that are at the conference. I think there's a new one that's Black Asian caucus. We're going to have a social justice caucus. There's a student affairs caucus. So we're finding like there's so many different aspects that people want to meet together to talk about particular issues. So that's a wonderful structure. And those sessions, I definitely want people to go to those because it'll be a little less structured where people can sit in a circle and talk about ideas and get involved.
Did you meet any I mean, non-mixed people, but potentially mixed people saying, don't do this. It's ultimately another form of segregation. This is, I remember hearing that from a friend, a mixed students organization at my university, a friend, and this friend's very left, very left and progressive, and said, no, don't do this. This is a racist thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
And
I am aware of that criticism. There's two kind of pitfalls that mixed race can fall into, and one of the big ones that we need to be attentive to is mixed race anti-Black? And this is something that scholars within critical mixed race studies talk about as well. What is mixed race relationship to whiteness and its oppression of Blackness? So and one of the important things about critical mixed race studies is that we are attentive to those issues. And anytime you're focusing on race or you're coming in together as a group, there's a chance of leaving someone else out. So then does it reify, in fact, race? And then, so we do need to look at those things. So I'm aware of those criticisms.
I think my friend had more critique that this was segregating off all mixed people in a towards creating another category versus moving towards borderless kind of world, which I understand her critique, but have you encountered that as well? Not just necessarily from about the leaving some people out of the mixed race experience, but actually that the whole endeavor is sort of anti-inclusion or segregating? Sorry.
Well, I think we live in a real world and real communities. Myself, I live in Chicago, and I'm very involved in the Japanese American community. I'm Okinawan and multiracial white. and involved in the Jewish community and an Okinawan community and the Japanese community in Chicago. Those are actual real communities with buildings, places, history, and we're out there working on immigrants' rights, working to push back against Islamophobia. Those are real concrete issues in our community. I am in those spaces as a mixed person. I work in mixed race communities on those similar issues. It's not an either or. It's another opportunity for us to come together and build bridges to work towards issues of social justice. It really doesn't matter what you are. It's very nice to meet other people who have a similar background, but this is a wonderful way for us to make connections to do this really difficult work we need to do in our actual communities. And that's my response to that. It would be some kind of strangeness if we just segregated ourselves off to only be in that world. It doesn't make sense. That doesn't even reflect our own families.
I agree. I mean, it's something I'd recently been reminded of because of a friend who was part of the Mixed Students Association that she recently started organizing mixed people in Toronto, and they got some press, and then she got some messages saying like, "Oh, this is not good what you're doing. I will never send my son. I would never let my son go to this. You're ultimately segregating people. I don't want my son to see race." And to me, that just sounds really silly because he's gonna see race. He's gonna when he goes to school, when he advertisements. His mom probably white guy, and I don't know what his mom is, but I both of them saw race at his degrees.
Yeah, I think there's two things you're talking about. One is that color blindness, and that's not something I would advocate for. I had a teacher when I was in graduate school named Kerry James Marshall. He's a painter, and he did this about color blindness. He would always say that color blindness is a disorder. It shouldn't be something you want to go towards. But I think one thing that is valid in that critique is that as mixed race people, we're not exceptional. We're not somehow unique or special. And that is something that can be concerning if people somehow think they're so wonderful and unique just because they're mixed. That's not, I don't see it's particularly useful. It is good to have good self-esteem and feel like you're part of something, but not to separate it away.
Yes, I have a lot of that I shot of answering a series of questions that I asked. Oftentimes the answer is not something, and one of them is that we're special. But I felt this is someone's opinion, and I'd share it. I see a lot of sometimes some criticism of the videos that I have up there, and I'd like to get more diversity on it, but just where I happen to be, being able to meet many people who are Black and Indian and Native American. Unfortunately, my situation is that. So I really find it great what you're doing. At the last conference, there was a Black Irish, I believe, a discussion of the Black.
Yeah, I think that both of our keynote speakers were from Ireland. Last in 2014, the conference theme was Global Mixed Race, and we always assemble a programming committee that vets the submissions so that there's a peer review process, and then once the theme of the conference is established, we ask the programming committee to make suggestions for the keynote. And it just happened to be that it was two people from Ireland. And one of them was talking about the mixed race Black experience in Ireland.
I found so wonderful about those, and I think there was a Native person mixed. Hearing them talk about their experiences made me feel a connection to them. I'm not different, because I think that's the unfortunate reality that a lot of us face is that we're made to feel so unique, and really we actually want to feel the same. We want to fit in, to belong. We want to have commonalities, and that's what, at least I think that's what is taking place in these discussions, in these forums, in these gatherings.
Yeah, I hope so. I think now more than ever, we have to work intersectionally, right? So it's not just someone else's issue. We show up and support people. But it makes a difference when you become friends with someone. That abstract idea of being there to support a community becomes like, that's somebody I know, I care about them. So it makes all the difference.
It becomes something very tangible, like, oh, you forgot your jacket, and well, a couple sweaters that I brought along. It becomes an economic reality as much as it becomes an idea we're pursuing, and that's what's missing in, I think, all communities that are in the industrial world. And that when I look at America, after the Trump election, really interesting. Somebody pointed this out, that a lot of the people voted for Obama, the states that were blue, the election before, were red this time. So it's not that they were racist or that they were Islamophobic, those people, but even those people feel that because of an emptiness or a disconnect, hurt, and I think there's definitely, we're missing the mark when we're, I think, screaming at them, being angry at them doing what they're doing, as much as it hurts us to see that. If we don't acknowledge our shared experience, the shared emotions that we feel, we're going to get very far in terms of let's continue with the shouting match.
I'm not ready to be quiet. I think, last night I'm a professor at DePaul University, and in the U.S. right now we're talking about issues of sanctuary and how can we, in our case, how can we protect our students? How do we protect our students who are Muslim, who are LGBTQ? How do we protect our students that are DACA students, DREAM Act students? So many communities feel under direct threat, and we're just scrambling to figure out how do we provide mental health resources? What legally can we do to protect people? We're being threatened by the federal government that they'll take away funding from our cities. And people are very, very scared of being deported. So this is not the time to be quiet. You're not going to see me be doing that.
Necessarily quiet. I wouldn't say quiet to necessarily ignore the issues at all. Not at all. Not to.
No, see, I don't think it's about, I feel like we underestimated white supremacy. We are dealing with white supremacy right now. So it's not the time to not protest. It's the time to make a lot of noise. And I think this is a time in the US where anger is really valuable, and we have to mobilize that towards direct and specific actions. And really, get out the vote. That's important too. We have to act locally. So I'm in this case not going to want to make amends that way.
We definitely need to reconnect with locally with the people, the things, and the planet around us. I think that's part of the big problem, and the reason why a lot of people might be xenophobic, might be anti-Muslim, and everything that we see ourselves as more left, agree at them for. They're using that, black people, gendered, all these things as sort of a distraction from what's really missing in their lives, and that's community and love and accept that we've sort of lost from the corporatization of pretty much all life. The buying and commodity of everything, of every action. There's no more community. Sorry, there's a mosquito here. That these seven exist prior to that, but a lot of it is going on because of this or escalated. I think it kind of mirrors like depression. When we treat depression with the feelings, the mood, conditions which create depression, and I think, and what's really causing all the hate, the violence, or the sentiments that we're seeing very acted out. So the sentiments that people had before, they feel they have their space where they can on them. Where is that coming from? I don't think we've discussion in the media, the mainstream media, but maybe the mainstream media wasn't, the place to have that discussion.
I don't know.
Maybe it's something for critical race.
There's a comedian in the U.S. named Aziz Ansari. Do you know him?
Mm-hmm.
And he was on Saturday Night Live the other day, and he's like, some things should just be, can you keep hiding those things, those racist beliefs? He was sort of making fun of the normalization of racist rhetoric, but can you put that back in the closet? I really don't know what to say to all the things you brought up, but this is not normal, and I don't want it to be normal, and I'm not going to accept that it's normal in this climate. That's all I can say.
I'm not saying it's a good thing or a right thing. I just feel we're not necessarily getting at the root of the problem. Same with the way our healthcare system, if, like I said, with depression or cough, well, let's give you something to stop the cough. You have a dry scalp, well, let's do something to stop the, versus what's causing it. There's I think too, I personally, me personally, and I haven't physical violence or so on. When someone doesn't like me for, I prefer, me personally, don't like me, say it. I want to experience, I want to where you are at. If you have to hold back and be sort of, I guess, passive aggressive or something, and it becomes, for me personally, a situation that I find more uncomfortable. And I think there's you in disrupting the standard narrative, disrupting the expectation that people have. There's a podcast that I listened to of Charles Eisenstein, and he mentioned a protest on, I can't remember, in one of the campuses in the U.S. Might have been Occupy something, and the police came to disrupt it, to break it up, and the protester, whose name I can't remember, the organizers, he didn't respond to the violent act of the police, who was him and throwing him to the ground and beating him up with anger or with rage. Rather asked him what his name was, very kindly, and after finding out his name, that's a Hispanic name. I imagine you food, and that wasn't the response that policemen expected, and that the policeman to relinquish that he was using to soften his stance. He said about the Mexican food, he said, well, after the protest, he Mexican food with the police officer and the other. So I think there's a value that we don't see in empathy, even with the people who are perpetrating or who we see as hurting us, we care about. Yeah.
I'm sitting here at a moment in time in the city of Chicago. We just had the Women's March in DC. We had the Women's March in Chicago. And, you know, on Saturday, I was walking down the street and I didn't realize the march part of it had been canceled. And the crowd had flowed towards Trump Tower. And at one point I was sort of near the front of all that with my daughter. And I saw a line of mounted police. And I was getting really worried, like what's going to happen. And then as I got closer, I realized most of the crowd was white women. And the police were not being antagonistic and everything seemed to be very peaceful. So we proceeded on. The whole route I was thinking about the interactions with the police, and it was non-confrontational. You know, and then afterwards, you see a lot of people saying, oh, wow, you know, that's not the way the reaction is when you see a Black Lives Matters, you know, march or protest. So the way that the police are behaving in this city and in other places was markedly different because of the predominantly white protesters. So, you know, you're giving me an example of an individual story, but we can look at this systemically and see there's a different reaction based on who's out there protesting.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah.
Certainly. Men versus women, dark skin versus light, transgendered versus heterosexual. All Native Americans, I mean, this natives just get rolled over. I mean, it's like, well, sorry, we need that land you can have that we made it. Sorry, we need it now. And it's...
We're diverging a bit from critical mixed race studies, but I think as individuals, you know, people are out there in these various movements and bringing those perspectives, and we're talking about it. So I'm looking forward to at the conference to see how people will process that together. Because, you know, in most of our day-to-day lives, we're probably in other communities rather than just being in a mixed community.
So what for this conference this time?
What is what?
What do you hope for this conference? What are you excited about for this conference?
I want to see how we're going to react together and how we can come together to make change for social justice. One of the great opportunities we have is because there are so many people coming internationally as well. You know, we're really mired in the dynamics that are happening in the U.S. But there's other things happening in other places in the world, and being able to continue that international and transnational dialogue is really useful. Yeah, I think that's my expectation and hope that we can continue those connections. It's going to be fun too. It's always exciting to see people you know, and we have so much exciting programming. So I'm looking forward to that. But in a very concrete way, I hope we can walk out of this continuing to build a sustainable structure for our organization that isn't just me, there's other people. And I know we're going to do that because we have models set up for people to run for elections and be voted in and have leadership and a structure that way. But more importantly is, what is critical mixed race studies going to do to stand together or in other communities to work towards issues of social justice, and really that this is about anti-racism.
What I personally, if I were going, would look forward to most is some of the extracurricular activities. Oh yeah, it was the best. When I was we got a Airbnb. I was with Jeff with can't remember her name. Mixed Chicks. No, was it Mixed Chicks? The I believe dolls. I can't remember. We had a great conversation, and I saw her again in LA when and she's just so. It was just so nice to year organized an event, or she was part of an event, and then who else was in that? But anyway, it was just Thomas Lope was in the house. Thomas Lope was in the house. Yeah, it was just it was just nice. It was, and then what else? The going to the bar after day one, that was so fun. And then even just in the cafeteria at St. Paul's, Mexican, getting food from the Mexican stall, and talking to Kiyoshi, and who else was there? Just people who I know now, and unstructured, playful space. That was the show.
I'm also looking forward to, we have a featured performer, Robert Karimi. He's Iranian and Guatemalan, and I knew him from back in the day, being part of the Asian American Artists Collective, and he's going to be one of our featured performers in our live show. It's kind of become a tradition that Fred Sasaki writes a new piece for us every year. So he's agreed to do that again. He just cracks me up. But
I was trying to find that that presentation, if you want to.
Oh, I can send it.
That.
It's on YouTube.
Oh, you have it? Oh, please do send it.
Studies has a YouTube channel. So if you look for Critical Studies YouTube channel, it's one of those videos. He's hilarious.
Oh, all the like viewers watching, you have to check it out. It was called Fuck White People. It was a PowerPoint presentation.
It's 3 easy steps to 100%. How to hafu it all.
Oh, was that what it was called? Because the message I took away was breed people, breed out the white. So which is
as a comedy piece.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing about that. What he's doing is he's bringing up the issues, but he's making it funny, and he's not. If you're white, you could still appreciate that and laugh. It's not.
Well, I think that it is important to have joy in our work that we do, and laughter, and there's something about humor too that you can say things you would just never say in other contexts through humor. You can cut through it.
Yes, and things that you can say to a bunch of mixed people that no one else would get or feel offended by. And when it's coming out of our mouths, it's just somehow, for me personally, I think like if I say something that might sound, if it's coming out of a white mouth or it just wouldn't, when it comes out of a mixed mouth, sometimes it sounds so ridiculous. The irony, if you're saying it with that, if you don't catch the irony and catch the absurdity of what I'm saying, it be sometimes a bit too literal.
One new thing that we haven't updated the program yet, but we have another performer, Aaron O'Brien, who will be doing a performance with Sugar Rebels. So we're also, really trying to center queer performance as well in this conference.
That's wonderful. Suppose the last thing to do be to inform people how to get to the conference, when it is, the details, and if they're on the fence, it's kind of far away. Oh, it's far away. I don't have the,
Well, it's 2 weeks away from the day we're talking now, but it's February 24th through 26th of 2017 at University of Southern California. And
September 24th
through 26th. And if you go to criticalmixedracestudies.org, you'll find all the information on the conference, and you can register and download the program. And this year's conference is generously hosted by the Shinso Ito Center for Japanese Religions and Culture. So I really have to give a shout out to that center and their staff for helping organize it. It's going to be fantastic. So again, we're going to have 50 panels, roundtables, caucus sessions, organized by Critical Mixed Race Studies, as well as a keynote speaker. And we have feature film screenings, live performance organized by Mixed Roots Stories, and we're running in concurrently with the Hapa Japan Festival. And Hapa Japan Festival runs from February 22nd through 26th. So again, we're going to have a lot of things that focus on Mixed Race Japan, and they have organized a concert as well. So that'll be really exciting. And that Hapa Japan concert is going to feature Kina, Marie Digby, Andy Suzuki and the Method, and Chris Roche. So the evening events are free. So you can go to our website and click on the Eventbrite tickets to get free tickets for those if it hasn't sold out already.
That's for Hapa Japan or for the?
Well, also you can come to you can come to see Jeff Chiba Stern's film, Mixed Match. That will be free.
I'm in that everyone, so you're probably gonna, I make a cameo appearance.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so that'll be free. Our live Mixed Stories event at nighttime is free, as is the Hapa Japan concert. But you have to get your Eventbrite tickets for that. But to come to the rest of the conference, it's $25 for students and community. And for faculty, it's $100. So go to criticalmixedracestudies.org and you can get all the information you need.
I encourage anyone who's thinking about it to do it. You'll feel great. I spent a bunch of money rerouting my ticket from, basically I just bought another ticket. I was coming home through New York. I'd buy another ticket to go to Chicago, and then another ticket, just sort of vanished because I didn't use it. And I don't regret any of it. It was wonderful. I mean, for the feeling of belonging, for the feeling of feeling, to feel part of something that is greater than oneself, it's so valuable, and I think the spirit of the connections, the friendships will carry you on throughout the year. So if anyone's watching who's seriously considering, just go. It's great. Treat yourself. Let it happen. Never know some of it. Thank you so much, Laura. And who knows, I might just splurge and come. Who knows?
Won't regret it. No, because this version will never ever happen again. You gotta come.
Oh, really? Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. Every moment is a unique one. And
Maryland, and then we'll be back in Chicago, and then we'll see what happens after that. But
sorry, in Maryland and in Chicago. Oh, okay. I'm having one in Canada.
If somebody wants to volunteer to do that, we're open to it.
Okay. Well, that could potentially happen. A lot of people. Hey, Rima, Gina, shout out. Jeff, let's talk. And I wish you all the best with the weeks leading. I know it's a lot of work, but
it's good though.
You can do it.
Hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yes, I hope so. I've been sick, and I don't know. Maybe it's just mixed conference withdrawal, and that's the remedy. So I'll connect with you. I guess
with Rudy.
I'm really curious what he's saying, what he has to add to all this, and appreciate it. Appreciate all your time, Laura.
Thanks so much. All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.